Hi, it's Debbie from Simply Special Crafts. Today I'm going to share with you the beautiful Floral Shimmer kit from Hunkydory. This is really such a pretty kit. The colors are beautiful and vibrant. The styles are gorgeous. This kit is printed with silver foiling throughout, and it's printed on that beautiful shimmery pearlescent paper. It's really a spectacular kit. One thing I like about this one is that the card samples that Hunkydory has provided are really beautiful as well. So there's more card ideas yet on the packaging here, but you're going to like this one. This kit includes two specialty kits. The first of the specialty kits is this beautiful little gift album of cards. You get all the materials to make the folder itself. You get 8 envelopes, you get 8 note cards with the pretty little embellishments to put on the note cards. These are simple and straightforward, but they're great little notelets. And you get a total of 8 notelets, as well as everything to make the portfolio. Let's take a look at which materials go with that project. Here's the toppers that go with that project set. There's a total of 9 of them. You get 8 envelopes. This piece of ribbon goes with that set. Here's the note cards. Now these come unscored, so if you have a little scoreboard, that's handy. I think I have a few scoreboards in the store, but if you hang on just a short time, our new Hunkydory scoreboards are on the way to us from Hunkydory. We should be receiving those anytime. But you can see they're really pretty, and they're already pre-printed with lovingly handmade. So those are pretty. All those little note cards go with this set. Here's the album cover itself. You get this for the outside. You get this for the inside. Those two pieces. I'm not going to assemble this one on camera because I think the directions are actually fairly good and pretty straightforward for this one. You'll use your covers, you'll fold along the score lines, you will create the pockets using these two triangle shaped pieces. Here's the little binding for the inside. These little pieces here are for your note cards. And like I said, I think it goes together fairly simply. Here's one more view of the kit itself, but I think this is really pretty and absolutely giftable. This will make a fabulous gift for somebody for a birthday or Christmas, or just because. It's got the little Floral Shimmer notelet set on the back. But isn't that pretty? You get all of this just included in your luxury kit. Okay, these are the materials for your second project kit that's included in this luxury kit. You get the little note cards. You get another piece for the note cards. We are going to do one of these together because the folds are a little bit tricky in this. So you get enough for 4 cards. Yes, you get 8 pieces of paper here to make those 4 cards. Plus you get 4 envelopes, and this sheet here in your kit is designated for this project, so you'll want to set that aside for this project. This is the second kit that we're going to make, and let me just start by showing you the finished examples, then we're going to make one together because the folds are a little bit tricky on this one. Isn't this pretty? Look at the wonderful movement. Open it like a normal card, then it's got the beautiful writing surface on the inside with the design on the inside. And pretty layering coming through the front. We have the pink, have the tan. Really like the art on this one. I think that's a pretty color. You got the purple. Of course, I would love the purple. Okay, let's make one together. These are the 2 pieces you're going to want to make your card. Of course, my die cut's already trying to pop out, so we're going to gently take the die cut out. Fold the card base. And you have this window. Now, we're going to take this card
other way.
Yeah. And I've already put some tape on mine so I could remember how the folds go. And I'm going to stick the little tongue through there, and I'm going to tape this piece in place right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just on these 3 edges. As you know, I use easy tear tape for almost everything. I love the convenience of it. I love how easy it is. Now see how my tape kind of came up a little bit there? Just fold that over. Don't want that little sticky place showing, but it's very easy to fix when that happens. I'm going to match these up. And I'm going to carefully attach that right there. There we go. Now, I'm going to fold this one up, this one down, okay? And I'm going to attach it to the back here. Once again, I've already put my tape on it, so I will peel my tape quickly. I'm going to match it up here. There we go. And we've assembled our card base. It'll be a little stiff at first, it's fine. It doesn't mean you did it wrong. Just a little stiff when you first open it. There we go. Now we're going to layer this one up with our layering pieces. Have my pieces here. Pop these out. When you layer this up, all we're going to do is match the patterns, working largest to smallest with some foam tape between them. And then you have some pretty little embellishments to go on there. I stole one of my butterflies for a different card. They also give you, one of the things I love about Hunkydory is that they just don't believe in wasting any space. So even though we're not using these pieces, the way I've constructed the card at least, they give you 4 borders that you can use on other things, which I think is really fun. So we'll set those aside. Okay, I got that all layered up with the smallest on the top and the largest on the bottom. The others in between with foam tape. You can see that they have a little bit of dimension now. This will fit better in our card if we'll actually take this frame off. You can always use that frame for something else, and I'm sure you'll find a creative use for that. But it just clears better if you actually take it off. And then we're going to kind of center this. I'm going to use some foam squares. I'm going to center this on that space. Sorry, I put most of my foam squares on while we were on break and forgot to do this one. Messy little things. Some customers have told me they prefer tape for that reason. It's easier to take off and you don't have all the little squares. I still use mostly squares, but I use the tape sometimes too. So I'm going to set this here and I'm going to close it to make sure it's centered and it looks good. One nice thing about foam squares is they're very forgiving. You can pop that back up if you don't like the centering, but that looks good. I'm going to put on my other decorations. First I'll put on my Someone Special. I'll put that right there. I think I'll put a little butterfly right above it. I'm going to put another butterfly here on the corner of my card. I'll flip it over and put my lovingly handmade at the bottom. Actually, maybe I talked about these being forgiving. I'm actually going to move it up because I like that butterfly. I hate to cover him up. He's pretty. So there we go. There's our finished card. Only took a couple of minutes to do. If you get this fold right, it's real easy. But you got to get that fold right to make it work. There you go. We'll move on. Before we start looking at all of the card samples from the 8 topper sets that are included in this kit, I wanted to show you a few of the extra supplies that I used in putting my card samples together in case you're interested. First, this is a Fantastic Flowers butterfly border. You're going to see we use this one a lot. We use the Fantastic Flowers butterflies with shadows. We use the Fantastic Flowers flower border, and we use the Fantastic Flowers round flower frame. Now, before you assume this is going to be super expensive, these are those dies from Find It Trading. This happens to be from a Precious Marquee collection, and just to give you an example, this beautiful 6 frame set is, I believe, $15.95 regular price, and I'm going to offer you guys a bundle price. So these dies are incredibly reasonably priced, and you won't believe the fabulous results you can get with these. These are great dies. I use the Floral Shimmer little book. I have 6 card samples today from this book. I used the die cuts with a view chalk cardstock. You could use any heavyweight black cardstock for the project that I'm going to show you, but this is what I used. I used 2 glitters. I used the Blush Pink and the Angel Whispers glitters. Both of these are from the Deco collection, the 4-pack Deco collection, and that's a special price in the store, so you might want to think about picking up the 4-pack because it has great colors in it. I used almost the entire pack of Blossoming Bouquet luxury foiled acetate. This is gorgeous, and you're going to love what we did with that. I used the Floral Shimmer paper pad, and I actually used this quite a lot in this kit. We have, what did I tell you, honey? 53, I believe, cards from the Floral Shimmer set to show you, with supplies left over to make more cards. So you'll need this to complete the number of cards that we did. And we used the Floral Shimmer inserts. I think I used just about every page of the inserts kit this time too. And finally, I'm not advocating you necessarily need this big roll of tape. They're actually fairly expensive, but if you do a lot of the techniques that we show, it's actually a good way to go. You'll want some kind of double-sided adhesive either by the sheet or by the roll to do the techniques that we showed. This is what I used. I also used the ornamental easel set by Tattered Lace. Lots and lots of you bought this set when I offered it with my last video, and I'm going to offer a special on this again today because I think this is a gorgeous set and you can just do so much with it. But in honor of all of those who bought this die set before, I wanted to do a card for you using this die, and I actually have 2 or 3 total samples in here where we're using components from this die set. So let's take a look at our cards. First, here's the topper set we're going to start with. Forever Be My Always. This is a romantic set, as one would guess, with the heart of roses and the butterflies. You've got some nice sentiments. To my sweetheart, you give me butterflies. You will forever be my always. Every love story is beautiful, but ours is my favorite. We have this beautiful heart corner and a nice border to work with. We have this pretty border. Let's see what we did with them. Let's start with this. This is the card we made using the easel die. If you wanted to stand it up more erect, you could do that by simply moving up your stopper piece. I kind of liked it a little bit more subdued, so I laid it down a little bit more. This looks complicated, and if you didn't have all the right tools, it would be, but this is very, very simple. I started by using this piece and this piece on a piece of black cardstock run through my machine. It actually cuts both the card base and it cuts a score line for the card itself. And at first you don't notice it, but it has this little wavy pattern around the edge, which is just a nice extra enhancement to your card. You can see it a little bit here and along this edge. If I hold it up for you, you can see the little wavy pattern there. Okay, the very first thing I did was cut and fold my cardstock. Next, I made this topper piece here. I made this by taking a sheet of my double stick adhesive, putting it down on a piece of cardstock. In this case, I actually put it on black cardstock because I wanted it to be black from the back. So I just used another piece of my black cardstock. I put my tape over it. I peeled back my tape and I cut this frame right here, this one, from my, I don't know why I bothered to put all these back if I was going to use them all. I cut this piece in black cardstock. Then I adhered my black cardstock right over my sticky paper, and I took glitter. I actually missed telling you that I had the lavender glitter as well, but I added lavender glitter, which also I believe is part of that deco collection of glitter, the 4 jars I told you about. And I rubbed the glitter vigorously into the adhesive and shook it all off. Then I rubbed it again and I shook it all off, and you end up with this beautiful background piece. Then I used foam tape to raise my frame. I used glue on this background piece here to glue this flush. I did that because it needed to really get down and touch that paper, so I glued it. Usually I would use tape, but I was concerned about tape being sticky, and I have the foam tape super sticky. And I used foam tape to raise this Celebrate. I added my Celebrate word. I added some little rhinestones just to add a little bit of extra sparkle. On the inside, I used one of my inserts. I created this little border piece with a piece of my edged foil. I just cut a 1/2-inch strip and then cut it slightly wider out of black to create a matching stopper. I used the little emblem that's part of that same ornamental set from Tattered Lace and put a rhinestone in the middle. I think this turned out just beautiful. It's beautiful closed and it's beautiful open. Didn't that turn out nice? Here's our next card from this set. I love this one. This is a side stepper card from hot off the press. Hunkydory does make a side stepper card, and it's slightly heavier weight than this one, but I like the size of the ones from hot off the press, so that's what I used here. I just covered my card actually in a piece from the paper pack. You can do it with Adorable Scoreable, but I like using the paper pack paper when I'm covering these specialty cards because it's just a lot easier to cut. I used my border piece here. I used one of my sentiments. I used my Every Love Story is Beautiful, but ours is my favorite. I used my little With Love tag here, a couple of butterflies out of that floral butterfly set we talked about. A little fine edge piece here at the very top. Candidly, I cut it my paper just a little bit short, and that was enough to cover that up. So sometimes when you see borders, it's because I'm hiding something, but it doesn't detract it in the least, and it's quite pretty. But didn't that card turn out beautiful? And of course my bow is tied using my embellishment Attic bow maker that we've demonstrated in a separate video. Here's another pretty one. This one is made using that corner off the cardstock, and this card is a Europen A6. It's roughly 4x6. There's slightly different measurements on that because they're in centimeters, but it's roughly 4x6 inches. If you had a US 4x6, that would be just fine to get this card done. I just simply took that corner out and covered my cardstock with it. I used my I put this up on foam tape and added it to the top. I used my Embellishment Addict bow maker, and I actually used 2 pieces of ribbon at the same time, of the same ribbon, and I ran that through because I wanted a little bit fuller bow. And in this case I used organza. I used one of those little acrylic slides. These are very inexpensive. They sell for 25 of them for I think $3.99. And then I use some of my little bow pins coming down. I remember whenever I'm going to put something in with bow pins, I actually put this up on a couple of levels of foam tape underneath this bow. I still use my best glue ever every time I put my bows down because it just anchors them. But in this case, I put a little bit of the best glue ever on the back of the bow, then I stuck it to the foam tape, because that anchors these very solidly. They're not going anywhere. And, you know, what you don't want is to go to all the work of creating a beautiful card and then having your bows dropping off in the box. So, and then when I insert my pins, I put just a little bit of glue on my pin itself. I slide it up under there. If you have a tag or something and it's raised a little bit, if your pin shows, you can put it right under that other embellishment, which is what I've done here. But this is kind of an unusual one in that often you see the pins going up from my bow. In this case, I brought the pins down, added a few little rhinestones just for fun, and I think that turned out beautiful. That's the end of our first set. It's true confession time. When I first looked at this birthday wishes kit, I didn't love it. I think it's pretty, but it just wasn't, I didn't think it was my style. But I did love what we did with it, so hopefully you'll enjoy those things too. Here's the topper sheet. In addition to the 3 multi-part images, you have 2 nice borders, which is really functional. And you have a delightful day and wishing you a happy birthday sentiment. Here's the first one that I used with that kit. Here's the second one that I used with that kit. Let's take a look at what we made from them. This first card is a center step card, also from hot off the press. I love the way this turned out by using that multi-part image in the center. In this case, once again, I've used the paper piece from the Floral Shimmer kit, the 8x8 Floral Shimmer paper pack. Again, as I said with the last set, it's just easier to cut out than it is with cardstock. You can cover your card with cardstock, but the paper is just easier to cut. In this case, I have covered my card using that. I've used 2 of those borders, or 2 pieces of that one border strip off of the main sheet, and I used the little wishing you a very happy birthday off that topper sheet. And then I forgot to show these on the supply list. These paper flowers are from Magnolia, and I just really like them. They're so, so pretty. That soft ivory color. Now, when you snip your flower off and it's got stamen coming up out of there, one of the things you need to do is you need to take the nozzle of your glue and you need to get down in there and you need to glue around those stamen. The reason for that is because you're cutting off the wires that the stamen are on. So I did that, and as I was doing that, I thought, you know what would match really nice if I used some of that blush glitter, and I just poured a little glitter in there. So I did that while it was drying, then I tapped it off, and I loved the way that made that match the card. I used a little piece of organza bow behind there just to soften the flower. And I put a few rhinestones on, and didn't that turn out pretty? I love this card. It's very pretty. So we finished that one. Here's another one off our sheet. Here's the large one. And even though I didn't love it when I started, using this is, I believe, a 7x7 card, maybe a 6x6. I like the way it just came together, keeping it simple. I just used a piece of background paper and then Put my 3 toppers on with foam tape, a very simple bow with a pearl slide, a few rhinestones, and I really like the way it ended up. It was one of my inserts. Now in this case, I've taken a piece, I've actually used a couple of pieces of paper here. I used my cardstock, which already got away. I used my cardstock, and in this case, I've taken a piece of my acetate. Yeah. I actually used a different piece of cardstock than the one that came with this set. Another true confession, but it's from this set, just a different piece of cardstock. I took a piece of acetate and went right up to the line of my border, and then this is where I anchored it under here, under this strip. And the fact that it's loose on one edge really doesn't matter. If that bothers you, you could always anchor it here behind these. You just always want to make sure that when you're anchoring your acetate, you're anchoring it in a way that it won't show. And added some little rhinestones to my butterflies, and I really like the way the finished look of that card. I think that's very pretty. And then used a matching piece of the insert paper on the inside. Next, here's one of my corners off of my cardstock sheet. This one, we took advantage of that beautiful foiling and caught that part of the image, and I just tied another very simple bow. In this case, I used a very glittery buckle. These rhinestone buckles are a little bit more expensive, but they certainly add a special touch to your cards. They really catch the light and glimmer. I used the word blessings off of my little tiny words. And in this case, I have used my corner die that I showed you in the beginning, the floral corner. And the only special thing I did to that, I love the fact that you got the butterfly here in the corner. And I really wanted to accent that butterfly. So I took a piece of lavender paper and put behind the butterfly itself. So I have a lavender butterfly on that corner treatment. So again, I've added that lavender. Now there's a number of different ways you could get that effect. You certainly could use your markers and color in the butterfly if you didn't want to go to the work of cutting the paper behind it. Since the paper is going behind there, I just rough cut it. I don't, cut every little snip in every little corner. I just cut the paper such that I can fit it behind there and it doesn't show. But added a few rhinestones, and I love the way that looked. I think that corner just added so much to that card. Very beautiful. Here's the next one up, also a corner piece. In this case, I've taken I believe this once again is an A4 card. In fact, I'm sure it is. This is the pearlescent cardstock A4 from at.is. And I like the way the pearl looked with the pearl paper, so I used quite a few of the A4 shimmering pearl cards from at.is. But I used my thank you here. I cut my corner piece slightly smaller than my mirror board. Here's an example where I don't have a topper for my pens to go into, and you can actually see my pens coming through just a little bit. They're not sharp or anything because these jewelry pens are not sharp on the ends. And they're above the edge of my card, and they actually just kind of look like a little bouquet, so I don't have any issue with the fact that they kind of stick down below my bow a little bit. Like I said, if there had been a sentiment there in the corner, I would have tucked them under, but you can see what they look like if they're not tucked under, and it still doesn't look bad. Tied a double bow again in white organza. We have that available in the store using that little pearl slide on there and some crystal and pearl pens. Very, very pretty. Simple card, but very effective. And a matching insert. One more thing. My honey pointed out to me that I didn't tell you that these thank you sentiment is a dazzle sticker, and we'll have that on the supply list. Once again, if you want to get the supply list, please be sure you sign up for our newsletter so that you can get the list of all the supplies we use in our video, plus links to get to those items in the store. This next set is a sympathy set with deepest sympathy. However, these images could be used for anything. They're certainly appropriate for sympathy cards, but we also have sentiments here for get well soon, thinking of you with deepest sympathy, so you can use these for a lot of things. So sorry. And then you have these beautiful little soft butterflies and the soft blue flowers. I love this set. I think it's really pretty. Look at those beautiful lilies and the edge pieces. Love that. And I especially love this.
Oh my gosh, look at those forget-me-nots.
Isn't that gorgeous? I love that. It's so, so pretty. I love the way they've ghosted them into the background, and then they have the more pronounced flowers in the front. And this border piece is just amazing. Really pretty. I liked that so much that I didn't want to do much to the card where I used that. So all I've done is I cut off that side piece. I've turned it around, which you can certainly do. And I mounted it on an A4 card. I cut a little bit, let's see, yeah, I had to cut a little bit of this side of the pattern side off to get all that border, but I love that border, so I wanted to keep that. I've tied a simple bow in white satin ribbon with the rhinestones and added my with deepest sympathy. I just didn't think it needed anything else because I thought it was just beautiful. Next one up. This is one I've done on acetate. In this case, I am using a piece of that very pretty lily paper, oops, underneath, which I will show you if I can lift that. As I said, it doesn't really hurt that you're anchoring just one side because it wants to stay flat. But I put the lily underneath, then I added a beautiful floral corner over that. With the acetate, I anchored my acetate under this piece of border. I added my topper, which I actually mounted this topper flush. I put my little so sorry there. I tied a beautiful organza bow with one of those glittery rhinestone buckles. And I just didn't think it needed anything else. It was just so pretty. Matching insert. Love this set. Okay, here's the first card example we're using, where we're using that that die that I showed you, the round die. In this case, I have cut the round die cut. Look how pretty that is. Doesn't that look like that's something that Hunkydory has produced? Instead, it's from that very inexpensive die set. I cut this piece. Then I cut the shadow because they give you the shadow for that too. I took that out of a piece of matching adorable scoreable. I have a fairly extensive collection of adorable scoreable from all the kits that I've done sitting here next to the table. I'm sure that you do too, and just choose a piece that matches your paper, and I mounted my die cut on there. Then I mounted my circle die, just the center piece, right into the center of that square. Didn't that turn out beautiful? I added some rhinestones in the center of the flowers that are sticking out. I added this little butterfly here. This is the one I believe that one that I stole from the card kit that I demonstrated to begin with, because it needed something else there and I wanted a butterfly that matched, so I stole it from the other kit and put it on here. Added my little buckle to the center, my thinking of you. Didn't that turn out pretty? I love this card. And it's so, so easy to get that effect using those dies. I just can't overestimate how beautiful those dies are. That's it for the set. I get lots of questions from you about how do I use these ones that have all the pieces. And I have to admit, sometimes they can be challenging. I looked at that and thought, okay, they're going to want me to do something with this, and how do I go about creating this floral bouquet? I'll show you what I came up with. In addition to the bouquet itself, we have these nice borders. We have lots of little pieces here. Has some nice flowers. We had this pretty corner treatment, and we had this unfoiled treatment. And when I see all those little pieces, and when you ask me about those, my first reaction to that question is always, have you considered making a box card? Have you seen a box card? This is what a box card looks like. Oops. And mine are a little tangled because it's been swept around here on my table while I've been working on things. It shouldn't have done that. You should have just had the effect when we pulled it out of all these things springing to life. But I'm not going to go back and edit this out because you will encounter that occasionally. But look at all those little pieces. It folds flat for mailing, and when you open it up, it springs to life. This border treatment paper was perfect for this. Now you're probably looking at that and thinking, but I don't want to do a lot of work to create this card. It's not a lot of work. I will tell you that it's a little more time consuming than some, but it's actually fairly simple to get these pieces along the side. I'm not fond of the templates that Hot Off the Press puts in the card kits that they're doing. Instead, my measurements for these little pieces were I ran my border strip through my paper cutter this way, and I cut 2 7/8 inch in, 2 7/8. And then I made 2 long strips, 2 7/8, turned it around, 2 7/8. When I had those strips, then I took it through the paper cutter and I cut each one of those strips 2 3/4 inches. So I got 4 from each side, which made it perfect for completing my card. I used these butterflies are directional. You can see there's some that are flying at the top and there's some that are flying from the bottom. So I used the ones from the bottom on the bottom of my card. I used the ones from the top that are flying upward on my top flaps. And then you construct the box. Once again, looks involved. It's very simple. They give you these little tabs to put inside. So you attach a piece of red liner tape to each of you fold it, and each of the folded pieces that you kind of create a little table looking thing inside there. You see that? And I'm attaching the sides to the side of my box, flush with the top of my box, but attaching those to the sides. Then they give you a piece of acetate. You cut your pieces of acetate, you attach them to your flowers. I use a little glue dot to attach mine, and you attach them to the box itself. So you get that movement going. But I thought those turned out really cute. The only caution I would give you about the assembly is you need to kind of run them up as opposed to over the side, or you won't fit it in your envelope, because if they're too far to the side, they won't go into your envelope. So run your items upward, and not as much of a bouquet as you might otherwise like, unless you're going to use an oversized envelope. If you want to do that, you can run them anywhere you want to. There's the first box card. I did exactly the same thing with my other piece of cardstock, and I created this box card. Now, isn't that fun? That's a fun and interesting way. Now, in this one, I had some clipped off pieces from one of my cards that I did. You'll see where I haven't used all of the pieces, and I like those little flowers, so I stuck those in there. I used my little arrows, and in this one I even added some rhinestones on little tabs. So you can do whatever you want with them, but that's a fun way to use up all those pieces. And then they fold flat to go in an envelope. When your friend takes them out, they have that bouquet. Box cards. Using the backgrounds or the cardstocks they sent with this one and all of my extra pieces of cardstock from this kit, I was able to get 9 cards from this one set with the shimmering moments. You've got Lucky Me, to have a friend like you. You've got You Fill My Heart with Love. A birthday wish is sent your way, hoping you'll have a wonderful day. You've got all these pretty flowers. You get 9 toppers on this one set. This is the foiled cardstock they send with that one. Pretty, pretty. This is the floral cardstock they send. This is wonderful, but a little challenging because it's so busy. I'll show you some of the things I've done to kind of break up the busyness of that. Okay, here's our first card. I used a piece of paper out of my 8x8 Floral Shimmer paper pad, and I used this is an oops, yep, it's another one of those pearlescent cards from Anita's. I used a Europen A6, which is approximately 4x6. I covered it with silver mirror board. I cut a piece that was very slightly smaller of my paper out of the Floral Shimmer paper pad. I added my topper. I tied a satin bow with an extra set of loops. I used one of those very pretty magnolia flowers, 2 pins. Oh, and I forgot to say, I did use a piece of acetate on this one. That's where we're getting all that beautiful shimmering metallic look around the edges. And in this case, I attached my acetate behind my bow and behind this topper. So it's firmly anchored in place. Didn't that turn out pretty? In this case, I actually attached my acetate to the paper before I mounted it on the card itself, and then made sure that I put my embellishments over my anchors. And there's the inside. Isn't that pretty? That's out of that Floral Shimmer paper pad. Next, here's another acetate card. I warned you, I used almost a whole pack of acetate with these cards. In this case, I used another piece out of the Floral Shimmer paper pad. It was just kind of a lavender color, and I put this beautiful piece of acetate on the rose corner around there. Isn't that gorgeous? This acetate has a gold side and a silver side. If you don't mind mixing the gold and silver, which I really don't mind doing, but some of you don't like it, so I tend to hold with gold or silver instead of both. But once again, I attached my acetate to my paper. I've covered my A4 card with silver mirror board. Attach my paper, attach my acetate of the same size as my paper. I've put my embellishment or my topper up on some foam tape, tied kind of a foofy bow with a couple of loops in organza, and used my bead pens. Matching insert paper is created once again out of that Floral Shimmer. Those are double-sided sheets, so some of them are real subdued and some of them are real bright. But you can just choose the side that matches your card the best. In this one, I've used one of the flowers off of that flower kit that we looked at last. That I made the box cards out of. I saved one of the orchids and put it off the corner of, excuse me, not orchids, lilies. I've covered my A2 card in this case with silver mirror board. I've used a piece of the cardstock that came with this kit and cut it slightly smaller than my mirror board, so I get a nice edge around it. I mounted my topper, I mounted my flower, put a few little rhinestones in the centers of those flowers, and I liked it just like that. In this case, I really, really, really liked this edge piece, and I was down to just remnants of it left, so I butted another piece of cardstock that I had left up against it. And I actually have a little seam that goes across here that you barely see. And I put 3 rhinestones on either side, kind of covering my seam. I tied a simple satin bow out of ribbon that once again is available in the store if you like that color. And some little rhinestones in my vines. And this is slightly up on foam tape. This is a 5x5 card. And I used a matching insert. I like that. I think that's pretty. Here's another center step card. In this case, I've used, once again, a piece of paper from that 8x8 Floral Shimmer paper pad. I've used some embellishments coming out from under my topper. I just liked the way that looked, and it kind of filled the space better. Added a little butterfly off one of my sticker sheets. I think this was off a butterfly sticker sheet. It's one of my Dazzles, and it's just one that I had here in my collection. I've used some little border pieces off the silver jewel borders. Here's another piece off that silver jewel borders from Dazzles. Some little rhinestones in the centers of my flowers and the top and the sentiment right off the topper sheet. Added a little place to write on the inside. Done. Like I said, there were 9 cards of this one kit. That's one reason I so actively use things out of the paper pad. Now, I did something interesting here. I did not cover the card. 95% of the time I will cover the card with background paper, but I like the way this white border played with my white crocheted ribbon, so I left it. I created a topper here using a piece out of my 8x8 paper. I cut this to 4 3/4 by 4 3/4, and I cut this to 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. I attached my paper to my mirror board. I tied a ribbon out of this crocheted ribbon, or a bow out of my crocheted ribbon, and I anchored the ends in behind here. I put this whole topper up on some foam tape so I don't end up with a weird bulge there, because the whole topper's set up. I added my little topper off to the side and some embellishments off to the side, and I love the way that card looks, but it was surprisingly simple to do. Now here's an interesting card. In this one I've used no cardstock at all. In this one I took a piece of my acetate, I cut it to be what did I use? I used 5 1/2 long and 8 wide, so my card ends up being 4 by 5 1/2, so just slightly smaller than an A2. It'll fit an A2 envelope. So I cut my acetate to that size. I cut myself a piece of the paper from that 8x8 Floral Shimmer paper pad, and it's double-sided paper. If you looked really closely here, you don't really see it. I kind of violated the always hide your tape rule, but I ran my tape right here and right here on my paper itself. Then I slid it into my little folder I created out of acetate, and this became my card base. But didn't that turn out fun? I'm doing my insert and my card at the same time. And then I just added my topper and a little with love. Last one out of this set. Okay, I said I was going to explain what I did to offset that wild background. I like these two together, but this topper just completely disappeared onto that background. So what I did was I cut myself a little piece of adorable scoreable, and I put behind there. And then I cut a piece of mirror board to go around that to create a finished topper look. I mounted this on some foam tape and created my own topper, and just added some solid color to kind of set this topper off from the busy background. Added a couple little embellishments there just for fun. Done. That set's done. I had one more that fell off to the side, and I did exactly the same thing with this that I did with the other one. In this case, I made a little 4x4 card. So I cut this piece of acetate to 4x8. I scored the acetate. I cut a matching piece out of my Floral Shimmer paper. I taped the paper here and here, slid it into the folder that I had just created, and this becomes my card. I want you to take a look at the bow here. Sometimes we all have those little tiny pieces of ribbon left, and I know you're like me, we don't want to throw anything away because we can see a use for everything. Tie a knot in that, pull it tight, and cut little whale tail edges. You can create a beautiful bow out of just that leftover ribbon. Isn't that fun? Okay, this next one is called A Special Day to Celebrate, and we've got those wonderful arch-shaped cards. I think those of you who watch our videos are going to know what I've done with some of those, because I'd love to make shaped cards out of those because they're so easy to cut. On your special day, with love today and always, and congratulations messages. Pretty, pretty set. Look at the beautiful foiling on that. I love the edge work they've done there. And you got this really pretty, I love the way they've done these kind of ghosted images with the more vibrant images in front. Isn't that pretty? And then I always love the scroll work that they do. Pretty. Okay, let's grab the first one. Yep, you expected it. Here they are. Here's our shaped cards. These are so simple to create, but they really, I think they really have impact. To make a shaped card is so easy. Put it right up against the edge of your fold, and you're not going to cut that part. Start here, cut around it, and you've got this beautiful shaped card. I have mounted the edge flush. I strongly recommend that you put the edge down flush to your paper instead of putting that up on foam tape. My friend who makes cards with me put hers up on foam tape, and then it was just a real problem to try and cut around that because you're trying to match the angles, and with the foam tape behind it, that just was way more difficult than it needed to be. So I strongly recommend that you make this flush mounted if you're going to try and cut around these. A few little rhinestones, a little heart, or excuse me, a little flower slider in the center there, matching cardstock. Pretty, pretty. Simple, simple, same thing. Not going to go into a lot of detail. Little mini sentiment off of my tiny words from Dazzles. Satin bow with the slider, rhinestones, exactly the same process. Okay, here's a fun shaped card. This is an easel card. We have this card shape, I believe, from Hunkydory in the store. If you want to use those, that's terrific. If you want to make your own, it's very easy to do. Use a 4x8 card. Score it, well, you're going to cut up to the score line. So cut 2 4x4 panels. Fold this at an angle, score it at an angle and fold that. Score it at an angle and fold that. In this case, this was a great way to use up a bunch of those little topper pieces off this topper set, because I could use my on your special day as an anchor, use up 2 of those little ovals. I used my floral border that I told you about on the edges here, and then I actually used my regular cardstock on the inside. I think this turned out really pretty, and it's fun, and it's unusual, and it's still pretty when it's closed. Okay, last one in this set. Here's another one of those arches. In this case, I've used that butterfly corner again. This time, I cut 2 of them, and I backed this one with lavender paper and put it up on foam tape. So I cut off all the extraneous pieces on the second layer, and I just used the butterfly. I backed it in lavender paper and foam taped it on there. That's really all I've done, but look how much that adds to that image by putting that butterfly there. We've got our nice little organza bow with a pearl center, a slider on it, some little thanks off of the tiny words, and a few little rhinestones, matching paper on the inside. Pretty. Heartfelt Thanks is my absolutely favorite topper set out of this kit. I love, love, love this one. Look at the lavenders and blues, the teals, beautiful. Lovely butterflies, tulips, Heartfelt thanks just for you, ribbon across here. Thanks so much for being there. It means the world to me to know you care. Nice toppers. Beautiful. Look at this one. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my gosh. Hunkydory just does the best imagery. Again, we've got that ghosting look in the background. We've got these beautiful tulips in the foreground and rich foiling. Beautiful. I was really inspired with this kit. The first one I've done here is done using that same ornamental easel card. I'm using the smaller panel, and I did this exactly the same way. I'm laughing because the cat jumped up in the chair when my husband went to sit down. The cat was there, and he had this very funny, startled look on his face. Anyway, so I used exactly the same technique. I used my double stick tape. I cut my image. I put it on top of it. I peeled it back, of course, put the double stick tape on top. I filled in with glitter, rubbed it, really burnished that glitter to get the maximum sparkle from your glitter, and it also takes all those extra pieces out so you don't have glitter everywhere. You have it all over you, but you won't have it all over the place when you go to use the card. Burnish it good, tap it off, burnish it again, tap it off. 3 times is even better. And when you're all finished, then I set my topper halfway, or a little over halfway onto that. I added a satin and organza bow, put a little for you here. This is up on some foam tape. This is an A2 card and a matching insert. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Love, love, love this card. It's so easy to make beautiful cards when you have all the right tools. Okay, here is the corner piece out of that card, and in this case I used that corner piece out of my cardstock, and then I used one of the little toppers off to the side here. I love this look. I tied my satin bow and wrapped it around and attached it to the back of my card. In this case I actually mounted this flush, and it still turned out okay because the satin ribbon isn't real thick. So even though I mounted it flush, I think it still looks just fine, and it's not overly bulky there. I put this up on some foam tape. The entire 5x5 card. Is it a 5x5? This is actually an American A6. It's a 5x6.5 card. But love the way that turned out. So, so pretty. Matching insert. Gorgeous. Okay, here's a fun one. I've taken the other corner off of the piece of cardstock. Now you'll notice this is going the opposite direction. I did that by turning my mirror board upside down, and then I went ahead and cut my corner piece. So I cut this upside down. The mirror board is upside down, and what that allowed me to do was to reverse the image and have the butterfly flying the opposite direction. Otherwise, he would have to be on this corner, and of course, if he was on this corner, he'd be covering up my pretty butterflies. So I made him go here. I cut 2. I backed 1 with a piece of Mary out of my 50 Shades of Mary pack. I'm not sure which one I'm using now. I think I'm still working on the festive, but any of the 50 Shades of Mary have such a myriad of colors available that you can use a little piece of your scrap from really any of the 50 Shades kits to do this technique. I added some little pearls that I had here. You'll also note when you go to put this on, if you do this card design, that I actually cut some of my extra. I made this smaller than it was. That's one of the nice things about die cuts, is that often you can alter them to fit your available space. And note down here, I brought this little branch in off of one of my cut-off pieces. I brought that in, kind of peeking in, so that I had that same matching Mary in both places. In this case, I put on Happy Birthday. You could really put on just about any sentiment here. I think this is off of Dazzle sheet also. And put little rhinestones on my butterfly wings. Loved this card, and I thought that was really a fun technique to turn the mirror board over before you cut it. You do get a little bit different finish doing that, but it didn't bother me at all. I loved it. I thought it was fun. Matching insert paper out of this is actually out of the pearl paper pack. Okay, next up we had that really big topper off of the topper sheet. I didn't do much to this one. In this case, this is also an unusual practice for me. I took a 5x7 card, I covered it in silver mirror board. I did not use any other cardstock. I mounted my topper directly to my mirror board, which I don't often do. But the topper was so large that it just didn't need extra paper poking out there. In this case, I used that Just For You ribbon across the bottom. I tied a nice foofy bow and I put 3 bow pins into it. Remember, I'm putting those up on foam tape, so I have somewhere for those little stems to go to anchor into. And that's all I did to it because it was just so pretty. This is up on foam squares, this is up on foam squares. The center part of that box is flat. Matching insert paper, done. Okay, this is a little bit more involved. I love it. I totally love it. This is my favorite card out of this kit, although there are several that I really, really love here. In this case, what I did was to first, I cut that frame from the easel card kit, from the easel tattered lace die kit. I cut separately, I covered my card in a piece of paper from my 8x8 Floral Shimmer pad. I then took one of my tattered lace dies and I cut an aperture, just a fancy word for cutting a hole in there, that matched the size of my insert, or my topper, so that it would peek through there. Before I put my frame down to my card, I glued a piece of acetate behind that frame so that I've got this pretty foiling reaching in and overlapping my card image. This bow is up on some foam squares, so I could put 3 pins there. I added my topper up here, and then on the inside I took, obviously this has to match up to your window, and then I turned the other frames at an angle, so it's just equally pretty from the inside. Now you note I did not line this card because I already have a lot of activity going on the inside, but this was really fun to make and pretty. Okay, this is the last of our 8 topper sets, and you'll notice we have lots of pieces here, so we made lots of pretty cards out of this. We've got several tags, we've got From Me to You with Love, Friends Forever, With Love on Your Special Day, Fabulous Sister, To a Dear Friend, With Love up here, Best Mom.
Huh? What's the name of the topper set?
This one's Someone Special. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? There we go, that ghosted image again with the more pronounced images in the front and that spectacular foiling. Beautiful border piece. Let's see what we did with it. Okay, in this case, I've used that Anita's Shimmery card. Even though this has a pearlescent finish on it, it's actually less expensive than many of our card sets, so be sure and take a look at those. This is Europen A6, which is slightly larger than a 6x4. I've covered my card in mirror board. I've cut a slightly smaller piece of paper, and I believe, once again, this paper... Nope, this is actually out of this sheet right here. I've cut a slightly smaller piece, covered it with that pretty swirly acetate, anchored it down. The acetate is anchored, of course, behind here, which I've put up on foam tape. I have this little extra embellishment here I put up on foam tape. I tied a bow with satin and organza ribbon, and then I added this extra little border here. This border also serves as an anchor for my acetate behind that border, and lined it with a matching piece of paper. Isn't that pretty? I wanted to do a gatefold card. None of these toppers were big enough to do a gatefold on a 6x6, so I made my own out of a 5x5 card. You can see that it's creased in the back. Doesn't matter at all. In this case, I used a piece of insert paper to cover that up and to kind of strengthen it along that seam. And then I made folds or score lines at 2.5 and 2.5, and I created my own gatefold card out of a 5x5 card. Added some little rhinestones here. This is done on this piece of cardstock, so I used this border. I could have turned it around if I'd wanted to and used this border on the other side also. I just kind of like the way it looked different. Here's that butterfly out of the butterfly set. We've used that several times here. And in this case, I cut a shadow for the butterfly out of matching Miri out of my 50 Shades pack. Added a few rhinestones. Done. Okay, here's another card using that corner floral treatment and the butterfly. This time I did not line the butterfly. I don't know if you can see it here. I'm going to get in close and hopefully you can. I did run it through 2 times, once to cut it and once to emboss it. And if you run it through with an embossing mat, you can get little raised embossing on the butterfly wings. It's really pretty. In this case, all I've done is used a piece of my cardstock on a 5x5 card, added a border, added a bow I've tied using organza and satin ribbon together, put in that little embellishment, few rhinestones in the embellishment, matching insert with love and best wishes today and always. Wouldn't that be a pretty wedding card? Gorgeous. Could be for about anything though, really. The sentiment's kind of universal. This one says friends forever on the sentiment. Again, I've used just a piece of my border here. This is a European A6 on that. Once again, on that Anita's. It's kind of that cream color Anita's shimmer pearlescent cardstock. Very simple this time. All I've done is put my outside ring on foam tape, glued down my center, put my center piece on foam tape. I've added my sentiment here with some foam tape below that. I put my bow up on foam tape and stuck 3 pins in. And I just think those pins had so much sparkle, so pretty. Okay, and here's a 5x5 card, and all I'm doing is taking advantage of that gorgeous foiling on the edge. All I did was cover my card with that beautiful foiled paper. Use some foam tape between on the center and the outside ring, leaving that center ring flush to my paper. Tied a bow with satin and organza ribbon. That's all I did because it was just so pretty left alone. And if friends were flowers, I'd pick you on the inside. That's all of these cards, but stay tuned. I want to show you a few cards that I've done using the little book. Those of you who are familiar with Hunkydory are quite aware of the fact that these little books are just a tremendous value. But for those of you who may not be aware, the little books are books that Hunkydory has done using the same imagery that they use in their kits, or very similar imagery, but this time they're done on, what is this, 100, it doesn't say here, it's either 140 or 150 weight text paper. This is still done on the shimmery paper, and these are not foiled. But what you do get is they give you 6 of a kind of 24 different images. Why would you want 6? Well, you could make 144 cards, or you can do some of what I've done in these samples, which is to do your own European decoupage or 3D work. So let me show you a few samples that I've done using the Floral Shimmer little book. And in some cases I used leftover cardstock and pieces from my kit, and in other cases I just used pieces out of the 8x8 Floral Shimmer paper pad. Here's our first one. In this one I created, let's see, 1, 2, it looks like I used 3 toppers in total for this one for my background, which I've mounted onto a piece of silver mirror board. Then I did some gluing work, or some glittering work, and I went around the swirls in this with just a touch of glitter. I just kind of followed the lines in the swirls. And then I did some fussy cutting. That's just a British term for cutting out by hand. And I cut a layer that had the flowers with the butterfly. And I put that on foam squares and I put it down on my paper. Then I cut a layer that had just this flower and I layered that on top. Then I cut another layer of the butterfly and I layered that on top. And I cut a couple of layers of these little butterflies. You know, he's perked their little wings up. I took one of my leftover tags from one of the other kits. Notice again, I've just used the knotted bow. Just put it through, tie a little knot, and it just looks pretty. Without a lot of fussiness. It just matched the tone of that card a lot, I thought. Lined it with a piece of leftover insert. Done. Here's another 5x7 card that I've done. That's a good size for these little book pages. I made my own topper by putting my little book sheet on a piece of mirror board. And in this case, I think I've cut out 4 different layers, layering between each layer with some foam tape. Each time I cut out a layer, I'm making it progressively smaller to a point where my top layer is just this flower. I added a little glitter and sparkle just because I like it. Added a little hello here, and I think that turned out really pretty. Very low cost card, but very pretty. Lined it with a piece of leftover insert paper. Now here's another one that I just didn't really think much of the topper when I saw it in the book. It didn't do much for me. But just by outlining the veins of the fern and the little swirlies coming out with some glitter, adding some little rhinestones to those little swirlies, and layering that up, I think that turned out very, very pretty. Using the Get Well Soon off one of my Dazzle sheets. Here's this border. I put this border here because I had kind of a rough edge here. I put a border down over it. One would never know my edge was rough there. Looks like I did that on purpose. Little dragonfly off one of my Dazzle sheets that was sitting here in my crafting area, and I just love this. I think this turned out very, very pretty. Now this is another really simple one, little 5x5 card. I've used that circle cutting die again, and all I did was cut out this part here from one of the pages of the little book, and that's all I did. I just thought it was very pretty and understated, and by putting it on the foiled cardstock with the foiled lavender Mary board, I just didn't think it needed anything else, so I just stopped right there, lined it with a piece of leftover paper, and I think it's very pretty. Love this one. Oh, I love lavenders, love butterflies. Lavender butterflies, what could one ask for that would be more than that? You can always make your wings nice and perky if you want to, texturize them a little bit. Took my sheet, put it on a piece of Mary, cut out several layers of butterflies, added some glitter to my top layer. In this case, when I glittered it, all I did was kind of follow the vein lines in the butterflies. Put a little sentiment there, and isn't that beautiful? That's gorgeous. Who wouldn't want to get that card? That's beautiful. Final one here. Here's another one where I've just done a little bit of layering work with those tulips. Used a leftover piece of cardstock, tied myself a pretty little simple bow, and a little bit of glitter work on just the swirlies. Love it. lined with a piece of leftover. So we got 53 cards in total from this one kit. This has been the Floral Shimmer kit from Hunkydory using the Floral Shimmer Luxury Kit, the 8x8 card pad, and the little book of Floral Shimmer. We've been able to make 53 cards here, and I can tell you we have lots of materials. With all the cards I made, we still have almost an inch of paper left in the little book. I still have a large number of sheets in the pad and a few little scraps, not much left from the card kit, so we really got our money's worth in this one. I want to invite you to join us on Pinterest. Lots of you have asked for still photos of our cards over time. You like the videos, but you wanted to see still photos. We're doing that for you. Corey's posting a few cards a day to Pinterest, so join us and follow us on Pinterest to get all of those beautiful card designs. And we're also now finally using our Facebook page, so Corey's putting some things out there. She's got some fun ideas planned for the future with some contests and giveaways and participation events, so be sure and follow us on Facebook if you're not doing that as well. This is Debbie from Simply Special Crafts. Be sure and sign up for our newsletter if you haven't done that yet, so I can send you a supplies list and links to all of these products. We're delighted to have you with us here on YouTube, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Bye.